Hello everyone, Romy Christoph here. Today I will explain to you lab number 2, which is about telling time. So we will learn why in some place in the world they have different time than here. Okay, let's go to the computer. And okay, here is the map, the time zone map. So you know that there are 24 hours in day and night, and that's why the world is divided into 24 time zones. So here is the prime meridian, as you see in the middle, the western hemisphere, the eastern hemisphere. There are 12 time zones to the west. They have positive numbers, you see, on the left side. And on the right side, there are 12 time zones in the eastern hemisphere. They have negative numbers. So here on this map you can see very well that these are vertical strips, and the numbers and the colors, they correspond to the time zones on the map. Which one is our time zone? You can recognize it. It's +8. So the time here in one time zone will be the same for all the places, like LA, Vancouver, San Francisco, Norco, Riverside. So all the places will have the same time. But if you move to the next time zone, the time will be changed. The difference between two time zones is 1 hour, or 15 degrees of longitude. Each time zone has a central meridian. So you can see that there are some time zones with halves, like -6.5, which is actually half an hour. And we use the time zone numbers to calculate the time in different places. We always have a starting point where we will start. We know the time and the date, and we go somewhere else to find the time. So here are the two rules. And there are two steps you have to follow to find the time. But before that, I would like to tell you that we use military time to calculate time, and these are 4 digits. For example, if you have, let's say here, 7:10 a.m., this will look like 0710. The military time actually affects the PM hours. To avoid AM and PM, we use military time. You see 7:10 PM, it will look like 1910. We have to add 12 hours to the PM time, and this will be our time, 1910. The midnight is shown as 4 zeros, or 2400. So this is the midnight time. So how do we calculate time? Each time zone number, as you see here on the bottom, shows you how many time zones to the 0 zone. Here is the prime meridian, this is the 0 zone, this is the Greenwich Mean Time, and for example, our time zone, which is +8, means that there are 8 time zones to the 0 zone. -2 means that there are 2 zones to the 0 zones. And the first step to find, let's say we're in LA, which is +8, and we would like to find the time in Montreal, which is +5. So first we have to use the time zone numbers to find the range, the time zone range, or how many hours difference between the two places. 8 and 5, you see they have the same sign. We subtract the numbers, which means 3 hours difference between the two locations. If you're here, let's say -7 and -5, you subtract the two numbers. 7 minus 5 is 2 hours difference. So when we have same hemisphere, so same sign in the front, we subtract the numbers. If they're in different hemispheres, like we're in +8 and we have to find in -1, so we have 8 time zones still here to the 0 zone, and one more here, 9 hours difference. So this is very important, and this is the first step. And then we have to find the direction. So if we know the time and the day in LA in +8, and we would like to find in +5, for example, we go east, right? And the east locations because they first get the sunlight. That's why we add 1 hour per time zone when we're going east direction. The west locations are behind the sun, so that's why when we're going west, we subtract these hours. Let's say we're in +8 and it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and we would like to find in the time in Montreal, which is +5. 8 and 5, you see there 3 hours difference, and we're going from +8 to +5 east direction, which means we add 3 hours to the time here in LA. 9 plus 3 will be 12 hours. And this is the time in Montreal. So here is the international date line. This is 180 degrees meridian. So let's go to your page on the first. This is the first slide, and this is actually the page what you're gonna use to calculate time. So in the text you have all this information what I just explained to you, and here you have a table. So you have a city, see it says from. So here are the cities where you know the time, you see the military time in the second column. Then you have the date, and then here is the time zone number. So here is the time zone number for these cities. And then you have to go to, or you have to find the time and the day for these locations. You see time and date. What do you have here? You have time zone range. You have to calculate the time zone range in this column. And you have to put what direction do you go, east or west, just to remind yourself not to make a mistake. Remember one thing, then you pass midnight, you have to change the date. So let's see the first one, for example. You have Vancouver 1301, the date is June 22nd, and the time zone is +8. You have to go to Nairobi, which is time zone -3. So here you have to calculate the time zone range. You have -8, you have +8 and -3. So what is the time zone range, or the time difference will be 11 hours. We add the numbers when they have different sign. So you're gonna put here in the time zone range 11 hours. Now we have to find the direction. If you go to the map, you will see that +8 is in the Western Hemisphere, and to go to Nairobi to -3, you have to go east direction, which means you add this time zone difference. You put here a plus, just to remind yourself what you have to do to add this numbers. What is the time? 13:01, and we have to add 11 hours. So here we're gonna put 13:01 plus 11 is 24:01. So 1 minute after midnight. What we're gonna do here? We're gonna change the date. So instead of June 22nd, you're gonna put June 23rd, because you went to the next day already. 1 minute after midnight, and you can leave it like that. If you have to subtract, I prepared for you one example. Let me show you, because this is kind of confusing for some students. Here is the clock. Let's say you have 09:05 here, and you have to subtract 11 hours. If you have case like that, here is the clock. Here is your time, 09:05. Going back in time, so you have to subtract 11 hours. From 9 to midnight, there are 9 hours. How many more hours you have to subtract? You have to subtract 2 more, right? Because they're totally 11 hours. So 24 minus 1 is 23, and minus 1, 22:05. So this will be your time, but you will change the date. So you go to the previous day, and this is very important to know. Okay, so let's go to your pages. This is the first page, so you have to complete here everything. You have to put here the time and the date for these locations using the time zone numbers like I showed you already. You have one example on the third slide. You see here you have to find the to calculate the time in Paris and Tokyo, and your starting point is Norco. And step by step, it says here how to find the time. You see, the calculation is shown. Another thing what is important, look at this here. When you add hours and you have 1305 plus 17 hours, which is 3005. You know that you can leave it like that. There are 24 hours in day and night, so you subtract 24 hours from 30 to find that the time is 6:05. And this will be your actual time, but it will be next day. So this is just an example for you to show you how it works. And on this page, you have to put the time zones for North America, starting from +10, then 9, 8, 7. You see, you have to list them here in the abbreviation of the time zones. Thank you for your attention.